Now, I've got to ask you about this climate farce at COP29. It's over now, thank goodness. The same summit, of course, that the Taliban attended. It speaks volumes, doesn't it? But look, some countries say a $460 billion a year global finance target, which was adopted to help poorer nations cope with the impact of climate change, is woefully insufficient. Barnaby, the bulk of the funding will come from a small group of nations, including Australia, but $400 billion, not enough. What do you say to that?
Our current debt, if you go to AOFM, now we never got to $1 trillion in debt, no matter what Mr. Chalmers says, but we're getting awfully close now. We're up to $950 or $949 billion when I looked at it last. So they have actually increased our gross debt. And this would sit on top of it. Now, each one of you watching this owes about $14,400 for every man, for every woman, for every child. It's all on your credit card. It's just like if it turned up at Christmas, you get your credit card. Oh my God, I owe $14,400 to a whole range of people around the world. Now, if you want to put more on that credit card, then this is the sort of agreement you sign yourself up to. See, these whole COP agreements, where you've got these billionaires flying in on their corporate jets, basically determining, you know, from the virtuous lounge of the leather on their jet to the taxpayer-funded trips where they go to all the restaurants and go to all the fancy shops and find fancy places in the world, and in the same process completely drive your economy into the dirt, making people poorer. You are poorer. Australians are poorer. If you weren't paid in dollars, which are made of plastic, but paid in gold, little bits and pieces of gold, you'd be getting vastly less little bits and pieces of gold now than you were getting 2.5 years ago. You're poorer, and that's what's going to happen. And this conference drives and inspires that poverty, and at the same time it gets into wealth distribution. It's big on that. And they actually want in excess of $1 trillion, well in excess of $1 trillion. $1 trillion to give to more righteous people. That and you have to go to developing nations. Now, I want to tell you one of those developing nations, of course, is China. We all know how it's struggling lately, and of course it needs us to borrow more money to send to China. It just makes so much sense, like so much of this absolute and utter rubbish.
Barnaby, I really liked your bits of gold illustration, but of course Tanya Plibersek won't even let us dig that up these days. So we're in all sorts of trouble. Chris Bowen is very keen for Australia to host COP31 in 2026. Two questions for you, Barnaby. Why does the Albanese government want to host this so badly, and would you be in favour of it?
Look, the perverse side of me, the very perverse side of me, really likes Chris Bowen, right? Because every time if you're any argument you're having out in the country or the western suburbs, if you're kind of losing a political argument, you don't quite know where to go next, you're thinking of something to say so that you can get the ascendancy and win the debate, then there are 3 syllables in 2 words you need to say. Chris Bowen. And you've won. Everybody's back on your side. Mr. 2%. They did the polling on him. Mr. 2%. This COP conference, what exactly are we getting here? They're actually out there. They're networking. They're networking to bring the conference over, which is a very euphemistic term for piss up. So they're having lots of drinks on the taxpayer to bring these people to Australia, which they'll parade around Adelaide. And God bless Adelaide. I love it. Love the vineyards. A beautiful place. I was there merely a couple of days ago. But this idea that we're going to fork out hundreds of millions of dollars to bring this on, I mean, sure, what about the ladies living in the cars because they can't afford their power bill and can't afford the rent, and the people at the IGAs who can't afford their groceries, and the people really struggling to pay for their fuel? How do you reckon Chris Bowen, my mate, how do you reckon they're going to see that?
Yeah.
You know, when you walk past them, how do you reckon they're going to call that one, brother? I think they're going to put you in the shopping basket and take you to the same part and the same place as the blanket of the misinformation bill, down the tip.
Down into oblivion, absolutely. Now, Barnaby, before we let you go, we've got to get your views on this, of an Australian delegation performing a welcome to country, of all things, at this COP29. Have a look at this.
Whilst we're not on Australian lands, I'd still like to start with acknowledging the traditional owners of Australia and the Torres Strait Islands and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging.
So, Barnaby, not only do we welcome people to country here, we welcome people to country in countries that we're not even from. Can you make sense of this, please?
No, I can't. And like a lot of Aboriginal football players, it's a little bit too much welcome to the country, isn't it? And the thing that always annoys me about this, if you go to Trove, is a great thing. All the newspapers way back, Trove is marvellous. Can you please go to Trove and before around about 85, find anywhere in any form that they ever did anything that even vaguely resembles the so-called welcome to country, which is like a quasi-prayer. And I mean, honestly, we're almost having to say it after every second breath. You come into some room, and if you're at the right room at the ABC, every door you turn around, you almost go, welcome to country, or welcome to the ABC anyhow. But this is an absurdity. They're in another country. How about you say it's great to be in your country? Because you actually are. You don't have to and stop welcoming me to my own country. People who serve our nation as the Veterans Affairs Minister, the Shadow Veterans Affairs Minister. I think it's almost an insult that you start saying that these people have to somehow be endorsed. They don't. They've served their nation. They signed on the dotted line and therefore gave people the right to shoot at their heads. I don't think you need to welcome them anywhere.
Barnaby Joyce, you've put it perfectly once again. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate your time.